Lena moved through the gallery with practiced grace. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, took in every detail. Each photograph was perfectly aligned, the lighting flawless. The air hummed with the low murmur of voices. Guests sipped wine and nibbled canapes. They spoke in hushed tones about the art, about the artist, about anything but what truly lay beneath the surface. Lena excelled in this world of veiled emotions. She curated emotions like she curated art, keeping her own safely tucked away. A server offered her a glass of champagne. Lena politely declined. She didn't indulge in distractions, especially not tonight. Tonight was about the art, about maintaining the perfect facade. Tonight, she was in control. Control was safe, control was familiar, control was her shield against the chaos of the heart. The gallery was her domain. Here, amidst the carefully curated beauty, Lena could almost convince herself that life, like art, could be controlled, could be perfected. Yet deep down, a flicker of longing resonated within her, a yearning for something more than the polished surface of her carefully constructed world. He stumbled into the gallery like a misplaced comma in a perfectly crafted sentence. Caleb, a writer perpetually lost in his thoughts, hadn't meant to intrude. He'd been drawn in by the vibrant splash of colour spilling from the gallery's entrance. The chaos of reds and blues, a stark contrast to the sterile white walls of his writer's block, had beckoned him inside. He was searching for inspiration, for a spark to ignite his dormant creativity. The other patrons, with their polished smiles and carefully constructed air of sophistication, made him acutely aware of his own dishevelment. Caleb felt a familiar surge of discomfort, the urge to disappear back into the anonymity of the bustling city streets. But then he saw her. Lena, with her sleek black dress and the weight of 1,000 unspoken emotions in her eyes, stood across the room. She was a study in contrasts. The sharp angles of her bob haircut softened by the gentle curve of her cheekbones, the aloofness of her posture betrayed by the flicker of vulnerability in her gaze. He was drawn to her like a moth to a flame, knowing even then that he was playing with fire. Something about her, perhaps the way she carried her loneliness like a shield, resonated deep within him. He couldn't help but wonder what stories lay hidden behind her carefully constructed walls. Their first conversation was a study in awkward pauses and hesitant smiles. Lena, caught off guard by his genuine interest in her opinion on a particularly abstract piece, found herself drawn into a conversation about the interplay of light and shadow, of chaos and order. She spoke of the artist's intention, of the emotions the piece evoked, carefully avoiding any mention of her own feelings. Caleb, however, seemed less interested in the art itself and more interested in the woman standing before him. He listened with rapt attention as she spoke, his gaze never leaving her face. He found her passion for art intoxicating, her intelligence captivating. He sensed the barriers she had erected around her heart, and he found himself wanting to break them down, brick by carefully chosen brick. They parted ways without exchanging numbers, a silent agreement to pretend their encounter had been nothing more than a chance meeting. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Their paths continued to cross, as if the city itself conspired to bring them together. A shared glance over a worn copy of Wuthering Heights in a dusty bookshop. A knowing smile exchanged across a crowded park bench. Their encounters, though brief, left an undeniable imprint on their hearts. Section 4. The Unveiling. Caleb, with his persistent optimism and disarming smile, chipped away at Lena's carefully constructed walls with each chance encounter. He seemed to find her wherever she went, his presence both comforting and unsettling. His persistence, his genuine interest in her life beyond the gallery walls, both intrigued and frightened her. He saw past her carefully constructed facade, recognizing the lonely heart beating beneath the surface. He challenged her to step outside her comfort zone, to embrace the messy, unpredictable nature of life. And slowly, reluctantly, Lena found herself opening up to him, revealing glimpses of the woman she kept hidden from the world. Then came the invitation, a writer's talk, a gathering of creative minds in a dimly lit cafe. Lena, normally a creature of habit and routine, surprised herself by accepting. Perhaps it was the way Caleb's eyes seemed to see straight through her. Or maybe it was the longing in his voice when he spoke of his writing, of his desire to connect with the world through words. Whatever the reason, she found herself agreeing to step outside her carefully curated world and into his. Section 5. Vulnerability's Embrace. The writer's talk was a blur of words and emotions. Lena sat beside Caleb, captivated by the raw vulnerability in his voice as he shared his work. His stories, filled with both joy and heartache, resonated deep within her. For the first time, she saw him not just as a charming stranger, but as a man laid bare, his soul exposed for all to see. Afterward, as they strolled through the park, a comfortable silence settled between them. The city lights twinkled like fallen stars, casting long shadows across the pathways. They spoke of their dreams, their fears, the things they held close to their hearts. Lena, emboldened by the intimacy of the moment, found herself revealing secrets she had kept buried for far too long. She spoke of her passion for art, of how it had become both her refuge and her prison. She confessed her fear of vulnerability, of letting anyone truly see the woman beneath the carefully crafted facade. Caleb listened with unwavering attention, his gaze never leaving her face. He didn't judge, didn't offer empty platitudes. He simply listened, his silence speaking volumes.